Okay, so this got changes. Don't worry, we will go through it. Data mapping. Data mapping is. Yeah, I just talked about mapping. Mapping is nothing but mapping your left-hand side stuff to your right-hand side stuff. So what comes in left-hand side is basically my raw data columns, which can be very much seen using the data mapping visualizer, whereby it is giving me, like what all are the things, what all do I have in my external data. So external data always comes to your left. And internal data. As in internal data, means the data model or Datorama model fields which are already present for your help. So when you put a file which has campaign from your left-hand side, when it comes in it automatically identifies that. Oh, okay, so he has chosen campaign, which means, like it identifies that it is a campaign and it basically helps you with it. Helps you with identifying the column campaign and mapping it to the data model campaign. Okay, and then you have the external data and the data models mapped together. We will go through that again in detail in some time. We have data source authentication. Let's not get into it. It's nothing but, like checking your authentication creator type level. All these things, we can create workflows. Let's jump to Harmonization Center. Harmonization Center contains data, classification, patterns, harmonized dimensions. So we will go through each of these topics and we will see what that they mean. Harmonization Center as a whole has, like I don't have any pattern or classification rules created in my Harmonization Center because it's a training workspace. But we will create and we will see how it works. What is classification? Has anyone worked on any kind of classification earlier? Or do you have any idea what classification means, not in Datorama, but anywhere? If you have done any form of classification, like segmenting data. Exactly. It is segmenting data. It is like you have multiple companies call. You know that you have book of business or you have a classification sheet that you refer to. In order to segment your data into various by delimiters, maybe. Or like you have a code and then you have the name beside the code which you want to refer to. You have a classification sheet basically. So that's data classification for you, in which you can upload your data classification sheet and you can make your raw data refer to that classification sheet and do that. We can create rules. We will create rules and we will see how it works. Coming to patterns. Patterns are another type of harmonization tool which basically identifies the pattern of your data and segments it. So if you see that, if you have put, like a dimension, so you need to select any dimensions over here. So if you select a campaign name dimensions, so it basically goes and fetches all the types of campaign dimension present in your workspace. So if you select one of them and if you select and apply. What it does is it processes all the values. That comes in delimiters. So if you can see that it's coming as the first value, the second value after delimiter, the third value after delimiter, the fourth value and the fifth value, but there are some not valid coming as well. So those not valid are basically coming for all the campaigns which are not, like set up like this. Or some other reason. What are the reasons? We will discuss when we are discussing patterns, but pattern is something which also helps you segregate your data into various positions. And then you can use this as well as classifications and whatnot. Harmonized dimensions. We will see what are harmonized dimensions. And, like you will see, whenever you create patterns, whenever you're creating a pattern, just understand this, whenever you are delimiting a campaign or a site name or anything. And you're putting a name for it. This thing is becoming an individual. Let me select one. So whenever you put a name for this and save, always remember that this is becoming an individual dimension, correct? Position 2 is becoming an individual dimension. You may put the name as quarter, or this is year, or this is like company name. Company name becomes a dimension. It's as good as a calculated dimension for you, correct? So or the fourth position as NC, whatever. So that's something that's not what we are looking for. What is there in this campaign or not? But all these components in delimiters or after delimiters, or before delimiters. These become individual columns and they are as good as harmonized dimensions, right? Basically what I mean by harmonized dimension is I can use this company name while a dimension in any of my reports. Or any of my visuals that I want to use. I can use this as a dimension and I can populate values alongside correct. So when we do that, what happens is in harmonized dimensions, we get to see all these dimensions that I've created using harmonization methodologies. Just one question on related to patterns. So when the taxonomy or the names are not proper, then we can't use the patterns feature, right? We can, because there is something called a manual setup. So it depends how you classify your data then. So first is so you have identical campaigns as well in your taxonomy, right? Which forms a set, which forms. What you need to do is you need to identify how you want to do it. So suppose you have 20 campaigns. Among which 10 of them matches to your matches and then rest 10 are not matching because they are different to each other. But your first 10 gets classified. You can have the rest. What are not being classified? And then you can create another pattern. Whereby if the fifth position is the second position over there, you can use another pattern. Or else you need to go back to your data team and ask them to fix the taxonomy. But there are ways in which you can segment a pattern and you can get the data. Yeah, definitely. You are correct that is a longer process, though, to do that. Rather than that. If you have an uniform way of doing it, then definitely you can go ahead and uniform. You can maintain the uniformity when everything is identical. But then there are what do you call to guard the senses, which you can also like in your patterns, and you can have those non-classified ones, but the given that all the positions are there but they are not in the same position as you want them to. You can do that process, but if it is at all a different, so if it is something like Amazon is the name and then other campaigns are named like this, definitely this Amazon guy will fall apart from the rest and you need to go back to the team to maintain uniformity. Okay, for example, position 2 says Q4, Q3, Q1, right? For example, one of the campaign name was not set properly.